goods or services firms are willing to sell at a price, all other things being held constant. Here we have the supply curve, which is an aggregate of all producers that shows how price affects quantity supply. The curve has a positive slope because firms are willing to supply more goods and services when the price they are able to sell them is higher.
Today we will be following Reed Pelfrey, the CEO of Pelfrey Farms, an industry leader in peach production. We will address how various factors will cause a change in the supply for his peaches.
There are 6 factors that cause a shift in the supply curve, and only one that causes movement along.
Movement along the supply curve is caused by price change. Reed recently found out that because of an increase in demand for peaches, he is now able to sell his peaches for $1 more per pound. Reed is now willing to supply more of his peaches to the marketplace. A change in technology alters the combinations of inputs or the types of inputs required in the production process. An improvement in technology usually means that few and/or less costly inputs are needed. If the cost of production is lower, the profits available at a given price will increase and producers will supply more. With more produced at every price, the supply curve will shift to the right, meaning an increase in supply. For example, Reed's company has decided to purchase 2 machine harvesters. He is now able to lower his cost of production and is therefore able to increase his quantity supplied. A change in the price of a factor of production will change the cost of producing any given quantity of the good or service. This change in the cost of production will change the quantity that suppliers are willing to offer at any price. An increase in factor prices should decrease the quantity suppliers will offer at any price, shifting the supply curve to the left. A reduction in factor prices increases the quantity suppliers will offer at any price, shifting the supply curve to the right. For example, this past week, there has been an increase in the price of diesel fuel. Pelfrey Farms now has to pay a higher price to run its business and has now decided to decrease the quantity of peaches they supply to the marketplace. To produce one good or service means foregoing the production of another. The concept of opportunity cost in economics suggests that the value of the activity foregone is the opportunity cost of the activity chosen. This cost should affect supply. For example, due to an increased demand for nectarines, Pelfrey Farms has chosen to switch some of their resources used for peach production to nectarine production. This switch will decrease the quantity of peaches they supply. Storms, insect infestations, and drought affect agricultural production and thus the supply of agricultural goods. If something destroys a substantial part of an agriculture crop, the supply curve will shift to the left. For example, a hailstorm recently passed through Pelfrey Farms and destroyed a substantial percentage of the peach crop. This will decrease the amount of peaches this farm will supply. A change in the number of sellers in an industry changes the quantity available at each price and thus changes supply. An increase in the number of sellers supplying a good or service shifts the supply curve to the right. A reduction in the number of sellers shifts the supply curve to the left. For example, due to the hard times that the peach industry has been facing, the number of sellers has drastically decreased. Due to this decrease, Pelfrey Farms is now willing to supply more. All supply curves are based in part on seller expectations about future market conditions. Many decisions about production and selling are typically made long before a product is ready for sale. Those decisions depend on expectations. Changes in seller expectations can have important effects on price and quantity. For example, Pelfrey Farms has gotten news that there will be a report stating that peach consumption causes limb loss coming out in the next few months. The farm will try to sell off as much product as possible, increasing the supply for the next few months, and then will switch to producing a different crop, which will decrease supply.
Let's talk about equilibrium price. Supply works closely with demand because if the demand for a good rises and consumers are willing to pay more for it, producers will supply more. The equilibrium point is where supply and demand are equal. This is ideal because it avoids a surplus in which there is more of a good available than is demanded, or a shortage in which there is not enough of a good available to satisfy demand. At equilibrium, consumer utility and producer profits are maximized. Now let's address profit maximization. The goal of any firm is to maximize their profits. On the supply curve, the firm wants to determine where the best output price level is so it can maximize its return. There are two profit maximization methods used, and they are the marginal cost marginal revenue method and the total cost total revenue method. The marginal cost marginal revenue method states that when marginal cost equals marginal revenue, profit will be at its maximum. The total cost total revenue method states that when total revenue minus total cost is at its absolute highest, this is the point of profit maximization. This combination provides us with the maximization point.